Hello there. May I interrupt for a moment? I'm doing 5-minute epic conversations on the theme of integrity for my podcast. Would you guys like to be a part of it? On the theme of integrity.
Okay, you're going to ask us questions?
I'm going to ask you, actually I have a list of 15 questions, and you get to choose a number. You have no idea what it's all about, and then we'll have a go at it.
You down?
You guys are down?
Yeah.
Amazing. You're okay to be on camera as well?
Yeah.
Yes,
Give me
Just
2
gotta
seconds.
make sure there's no food in my teeth.
Yeah.
How's my hair? Yours is better than mine.
I appreciate that. Let me set a couple of cameras here, and I'll come join you here. Is that
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, I think I'm all set here.
What podcast do you do, man?
Well, I have a podcast. Oh, I appreciate that. Can I tell you afterwards?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Keep you all mysterious.
It's all good.
All right, let me sit here so I can see you all. I'll set you up in my camera here as well, and make sure you can see everyone. You guys comfortable?
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So my name is Binyam. You are?
Faye.
Faye, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Shane.
Shane?
I'm Kelsey.
Kelsey. May I ask a personal question? How do y'all know each other?
We met how many years ago now?
It's been a few.
Yeah,
I'd say.
maybe like 4 or 5 years ago.
yeah.
I
All
used to
y'all
work
met.
at a gym, and I
Yeah.
signed them up at the gym,
Okay.
Yeah.
and we've
And then
stayed
the friendship
connected.
is here. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, like I said, I've got a list of 15 questions. Faye, I'm going to ask you to choose a number between 1 and 15. Please don't say 7, because everyone's been choosing 7 today.
Yeah,
Everyone.
really?
I'm like, there's some psychology around this. So number 8.
Yeah.
Okay. The question is, are there situations where integrity is not necessary? Now, my whole theme is on integrity, especially integrity to young men. But are there scenarios where integrity is unnecessary? What do you guys think? Let's start off by defining integrity. Is that a good starting place?
Yeah.
So we know what we're
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about? How would you guys define integrity? I'll throw my thoughts in, but let me start off priming the question with you guys.
Integrity, the first word that comes to mind is like truth,
Yeah. I like it.
authenticity,
Yeah.
being genuine, integral. I mean, yeah, showing up from your heart
Yeah.
as a great human.
Like it.
My scattered definition.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. Just being honest, showing up as your true self. Like, don't try to create some persona of something that you're not, just to fit in or be understood, or try to be understood, or try to set in with a certain crowd. Like, just be you, be your weird, awesome self, and
Yeah.
that's
I like
it.
that you
Like,
include the word weird.
yeah, it's like
It's
that's
all
what
weird.
makes it interesting, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, just be you. Yeah.
Faye, why do you disagree with these two? I tease. Let me throw in a couple more things and see if you guys differ. I like the idea of consistency in the expression of integrity. So, integrity once in a while isn't as good as consistently over the long haul kind of thing. I like it when there's a desire for integrity too, right? You want to be that kind of person who's like living according to your values. And then at the heart of it, I would say when your internal values match your external actions.
Yes.
So those are kind of some important things that I think about.
I agree. I often say the line, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So if
Say
you're
that again, darling. That was amazing. Oh, goodness.
how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Oh, man.
So if you're, say, I don't know, showing up in one area of your life and cutting corners,
Yeah.
you're likely going to cut corners in other areas of your life. And maybe the people around you can't see that, but you know in your mind what word you've committed to for yourself or for other people. So if you're breaking your word to yourself, how many other people are you breaking your word to? That's kind of
Wow,
how I
I
look
like
at
that.
it.
That's
That
really
can go
good.
along the lines of integrity a little bit.
I'm going to steal that. That's So good.
It's all yours.
I like that. Okay, so back to the question. Are there settings or scenarios in which integrity is unnecessary? Or where you can sort of like say, integrity doesn't really factor in here?
That's a really good question. I mean, it's without commitment, you'll never start. Without consistency, you'll never finish. So, I mean, if you don't do it all the time, like, then, well, you don't have integrity. So, I mean, I think every situation would maybe not require it, but it should be, it's, I don't know, in my own head, it's kind of up to you if you decide if you want to have full integrity or if you want to have that consistency like you just talked about. If you want to have it, then show up every day as your true self. If it's not consistent, then it's not all the time and it requires it. So, I mean, yeah, I feel every situation should have integrity depending on the person, because
very
it's an
personal thing, isn't it?
internal thing. Right?
Yeah. Okay, is there, oh, let me remember names. Faye,
Kelsey.
thank you, Kelsey, and
Shane.
my gift is not memory. All right, so is there a baseline integrity that everyone should be signing up for at a core level? Or is it different for every person?
I think it goes back to what you said about values, because everyone has different values. Everyone perceives the world differently. We all see things differently. So it would come down to that. I don't think we can say everyone must follow da 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 da, because being a human being is not a one size fits all part of life thing, right?
Yeah.
So it's tough to say. Yeah, it would come down to personal values. Whereas for each of us, I'm sure, like, we probably have similar ones. That's why we vibe.
Yeah.
For me, I would say, like, truth, honesty, loyalty would be amazing to see from all human beings. Compassion, love, kindness. But of course, it's not required of everyone, because from my own compassionate heart, I respect that everyone has a different view of the world.
Yeah. It's kind of dicey. Does integrity begin with other people's assessments or by your own assessments first?
I think it should start with you, right? Because
I agree with you.
you can only control what you can control. So I can't control those people over there. I can't control anybody, right?
Sure.
I can control myself and how I show up every day.
Sure.
And if I show up as my true self, honest, and consistent with that, and treating people respectfully and letting them believe in whatever they believe in, then it might I don't know if this is a personal thing, but it might help other people be like, hey, maybe it's okay to just be me and not worry about trying to be fake, and just to fit in with somebody or some certain people or in a situation. So I mean, I think it starts internally with yourself. Yeah.
I like it. Is it easy for people to start that journey within themselves, or is it more challenging? What do you think, Faye?
I think it's because you always have to start with yourself, right? Because you start with yourself, and like, you can't teach other people if you can't do it by yourself. Like, you have to be like accountable to yourself too before to other people. Yeah.
We haven't quite gotten to an idea yet of my question's answer. Is it possible to have integrity bypassed in some settings? Yeah, like saying, it's okay that we don't have integrity in this setting or this circumstance. Or
Give us an example.
Sure. Okay, here's an example. Let's say that you value honesty, and that's a part of your expression of integrity. Honesty at all costs, all the time, until expressing honesty is going to put someone else at harm, potentially. For example.
Well, that's a good question, and I've been asked that before.
Okay.
And it's a tough one to answer, because of course you want to stick true to your own values, be integral. If those values are deep embedded in your core, like I would say they are for myself.
Sure.
But you don't want to hurt people. I don't want to hurt people.
Yeah.
So I feel like it would definitely be situational.
Gotcha.
Like, what level of hurt is that person going to feel? But at the same time, we can't control the outcome. Outcomes, everything is, you gotta detach from that, right? Like we don't really know how things are gonna end up. So if it's going to eat at me to lie, not be truthful, with the risk that it might hurt them, I would rather take that risk, I would say, and just be honest.
I think something
Yeah.
that would be important too is it depends on the relationship you have with that person, right? If it's like, for example, I was talking about this recently. If you knew somebody and they were in a relationship and that their partner was being unfaithful to them, and you being a friend, knowing that in full well, it'd be like, okay, well, if I tell them, they're going to be upset and they're going to be sad, and because it comes from me, they might be upset with me.
Yeah.
But if I don't tell them and they find out on their own, they're going to ask me why I didn't tell them. So it's like, because, and I'd be like, because I didn't want to hurt them.
Yeah.
I didn't want them to be sad,
Yeah.
right? So it's in that sense, it's kind of in between a rock and a hard place. But I think a really good way to determine if it would be appropriate or not, or if it's required, is depending on the relationship. If you're really close with someone and they respect you and they know that you're going to be honest with them and that you know you're integral, then telling them, be like, hey, in that situation, hey, look, this person is being unfaithful, then yes, they would be hurt. But in the end, the long run, they would come back and be like, hey, I'm with someone now that, is faithful. And yeah, at that time, it may suck a little bit, but I'm glad that I knew, because I didn't spend months or years with someone and then find out that all that time has been wasted. So I think it may depend on the situation and maybe the relationship between the people that are in it.
Very contextual. Okay, the other thing I was thinking about when you were sharing your answer, Kelsey, is maybe there are other values alongside honesty that you have, but you put them into a sequential priority scale of which one is going to get more emphasis. So for example, in this setting that we were describing earlier, honesty that may harm someone, you're thinking, but I also have another value of people not being hurt that is also a little bit higher in this contextual setting per se. It still enables one to keep intact their sense of integrity, saying, I know I'm breaking this one here, but it's for this reason over here, and I still feel that sense of like cohesiveness and the why, the intention of why we're going about it. Maybe. I just thought of that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
It's a tough one. It is a tough one. I feel like it's very intuitive in the moment.
And it also necessitates a really strong sense of knowing oneself, right?
Yeah.
How do you sort of play out in this scenario, and why would you do it this way? How would you give your defense of what made sense and why you had confidence in going down a certain trajectory, for example, right? Yeah. You guys are doing amazing. This is like so great, by the way. Couple more questions, if I may.
Yeah.
The theme of my podcast is specifically for young men, saying, young men, how can we experience integrity a lot more? How can we talk about it? How can we pursue it? In general, would you say culturally young men are nailing it in this sphere of integrity? Or would you say, from your observations, they're finding challenges and struggling a little bit there?
I would definitely say, and just being a guy,
Yeah.
it's kind of, I would say, I say there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and I'm not saying that like it's any specific fault, but I think that the environment that men grow up in, and I'm sure this is the same for women as well, but the environment that we grow up in, there's always competition just with everybody else, right? So there's always that, oh well, maybe this person is better than me in this way, or for example, if you go to a pool and you're like, oh, that guy's looks great and I don't, or you know what I mean? So it's kind of like you're always, I wouldn't say always, but there's definitely a side of like trying to portray yourself as someone you're not. Again, that comes back to just being you. And going back to what you said a minute ago, like if you kind of decide what action is more important, like am I going to be honest, am I going to be direct, how am I integral, then if you don't follow those steps that you put in for yourself internally, then you actually become the opposite of what you're talking about. You are no longer integral because you're not doing the whole process, right? So I mean, yeah, I think that there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and that's internally, not against everyone. It's with ourselves to understand that, hey, you are who you are. Be you, and the people that love you will be around you. You'll attract those people to you, and the people that aren't your vibe, aren't your vibration, then they'll just dissipate, and it'll make room for the people that want to be around you for who you are, right? So I think it's a lot of work to be done across the whole board, but it starts with the individual person. So once one person does it, goes to the next person. It's like pay it forward, but on an internal silent level. If that makes sense.
Do you agree with something?
Yeah, I mean, I can't say anything about it, yeah, but
Yeah.
I agree with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kelsey.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree. And to that comparison point that you kind of brought up, like young men and women, but men in the context of your podcast, yeah, they're comparing themselves to other men on social media, other men in the gym, other men in the park, in the mall, wherever people hang out. And we get this over-sensing feeling of like not enough constantly. We're like, I'm not enough, this is enough, I'm not jacked enough, I'm not rich enough, I'm not this enough. And it really creates a disconnect with just who you are, yourself, because everyone is enough. We're abundant human beings, I believe. And if we can kind of get rid of all of that extra fluff that creates that comparison, it would help a ton with that feeling of self and being in touch with yourself and knowing like what are your values really. Do you value being super jacked and fit because this other dude in the gym does? Or do you value artwork and creativity and laying in a park for 6 hours staring at the sky? Like, it's hard to know because we do have so much external influence. So I would say societally now, culturally, yeah, it is more challenging.
If you guys had the ears of young men who are like actually interested in like experiencing integrity, but they have no idea where to start, what are some helpful suggestions you might propose to them?
Oh, I got a few. Okay.
Okay, hold on. We're gonna come back to you because
Sure.
you're like ready to go. Let
Yeah.
me get these guys to like take some of yours.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
What do you think? Right?
Like to have.
To suggestions that you might say, hey, here's some ideas to consider in starting your journey of exploring integrity for yourself.
Yeah, just be yourself. Like, just be true to yourself, and like do what makes you like your own self.
Your
So
uniqueness.
yeah, your uniqueness, and yeah, just start with yourself. Yeah.
Lovely.
I would say allow yourself to get comfortable being uncomfortable. It takes a lot of discomfort, being alone, to learn yourself, learning who you are. Take time to maybe step away from the crowds, from social media, from whatever it is that is influencing you right now in ways that maybe you don't realize are turning you into this being that maybe doesn't feel aligned. So get uncomfortable, allow yourself to sit in silence. I preach mindfulness, I'm a mindset coach. So sit in your mind, sit in those uncomfortable thoughts. Don't numb them. If you usually use substances or food or dating apps, sex, drugs, whatever it is, try to step away from that for a day. Give yourself one day. You don't have to commit to forever, but take baby steps. 1% better every day. You said that to me. And start there. Sit in that discomfort for a while because there is so much beauty in the discomfort.
Okay, so I'm gonna get to you in just a moment, brother.
Do you think?
I have definitely also explored those themes or encouraged my listeners to consider getting away like you're describing. That's a scary proposition though. How would you encourage them to get over the fearful element of sitting by themselves, getting aware with their internal climate, if you will, knowing how to even look at themselves in the mirror? Like, that's fantastic, but how would you help them get over that hump that is the scary part of saying, it's a mess inside?
That's the challenging thing is it is hard, it is scary, it is uncomfortable, and if it weren't, everyone would do it. And I'm sure a lot of the listeners, they don't want to be like everyone. They feel like they have something inside of them that is a little bit different. And so recognizing that and loving that part of you that has like this different thing inside that maybe not all of your friends around you do. Don't look at it as if it's a bad part. Look at it as if it's this beautiful part that's like trying to come out and show you this exciting side of life. It's all really like giving yourself compassion and love, understanding that it's okay to feel a little bit different, because weird people, like you said, weird at the beginning, they're usually a lot of fun and they have a lot inside to share with the world. Having an accountability buddy, I mean, we can look at those things, find people who are maybe in a similar boat, who have similar goals, who are dealing with similar things, and get around them. Get yourself a coach or even a friend, whether it be a coach or a friend, someone to just kind of guide you on that path, I would say, is my suggestion.
I've also described the courage that it takes to do that. Like, it's a courageous thing, right? And I know for guys especially, we're trying to figure out how do we experience or look courageous, and which is an important part, but also really redefining how one accesses it by getting in touch with that vulnerable sector that is so often like neglected, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Brother, I can't wait to hear.
Yeah, so I mean, the biggest thing for me is I can draw on a personal experience. So, coming from, like, if you're in the background, if you're listening to this podcast, there's a clear reason why, like Kelsey said, that there's something inside you. There's more to you, and you just don't know how to let it out. You don't know how to do it, where to do it, who to talk to, who to trust, who not to trust. You can't talk to your friends because, well, what if they think you're doing something weird, or like, what if they're following the status quo and you don't want to? So the most powerful thing that I think you can start with is to, and this is very, very descriptive, but go into your room, whether you live at home, whether you live by yourself, go to a park, just go somewhere where you're completely and totally alone. And I know that might be scary, but close the door, turn the light off so you can't see anything. Close your eyes and just sit there. Don't think of anything. Don't try to think of anything. Just sit and be quiet. It might take 5 minutes. It might take an hour. Just stay there until it's hard to describe. You go calm. Your mind goes blank. You don't think of anything. You're not thinking about the stuff that you have at school or at home or at work, or you're not thinking about anybody. And then just allow yourself to be present, right? Don't try to come up with a situation. Don't be like, oh, I need to think of this certain thing to become my own person. No, just let it, just be who you are. Just sit there and be silent and it will come to you. You'll be amazed at how things flow naturally when you're just in silence, and then start asking yourself really specific questions. If you want a better answer, ask a better question. So don't say, well, how can I fit in? Say, how am I different? Who am I? What do I create within myself, right? And when you go from that state into a state of creation, which is, how can I do this? How am I different? Your brain and your subconscious will start telling you the reasons the answers you're looking for. Then you can act on those. So I think courage is not going into battle with the absence of fear. Courage is going to battle with that fear still with you, but showing up anyway. Right? Yeah. That is how you show courage to yourself. You show up every day and be like, hey, this might be scary, but I'm going to sit down and do it. And you sit down and just be quiet with yourself for a minute and just let the answers flow naturally, and they will. It just takes a little bit of time. It might happen instantly, it might take a couple days, but just sit there and let it come to you and ask yourself the right questions. Like I said, how am I different? How can I show up to be the way that I want to be? How can I show up for other people? And asking those questions, it will come to you. You just have to let it. But we're so crowded with thoughts of how we're supposed to be to fit in and be like everyone else, that it takes time to erase those things from your mind. So just sit and be silent. Turn off the lights so you have no distractions, and just let the things come naturally. Just ask yourself better questions. How am I different? How am I great? Why do I love me? And how can I show love to other people? And how can I provide value to those around me? And you'd be shocked at how good you feel, because you're like, hey, I never thought of that trait that I have, but I'm really good at making people laugh, like in situations where they're really upset. Or I noticed a lot of people randomly come and talk to me that they're just like, hey, can I talk to you for a second? That's an energy that you're giving off. If you align yourself with that by asking, how am I different? Oh, I'm different because I help people, even if I don't know them. They come and talk to me, they want to be around me. Match that vibration, and your true self is going to come out, and then you will attract that to you, and you can help more people. So be courageous in sitting with yourself for a while in silence, and you'll be shocked at what your subconscious tells you of how you can be great, how you can be integral with that surrounding.
Quick follow-up question that you can definitely take a rain check on. When did you discover this course or pathway in your life that served you well?
When I was 27. So 5 years ago. I don't do math well. But yeah, it's a long story.
Yeah.
But I went through a really dark growing up, and I made a lot of bad choices with a lot of wrong people, and just in bad environments at home and everywhere else. And I just was at I'd say my lowest point in my life, and that point was, again, I'm not gonna go through the whole thing, but that point is I was ready to die. I thought I was about to, and I just saw. She knows the story. She knows the story.
When I met you.
Yeah. And I saw it was a specific video. It was 30 seconds long with a specific song. And no, that's not a sappy movie moment. Let me be clear. But it was just that I was in that right place at the right time, and it woke me up to. It was just that key that I needed to unlock and change my life. So I was at my darkest time. I thought I was going to die, and then the next day I woke up and my entire life was different. I was like, you know what, I'm tired of not being who I am, and if people don't like it, see you later. You know, and I know that since becoming that person, I know that I've been able to impact so many more people than I was when I was doing that. And I see the people sometimes that I used to spend time with, and they're doing the same thing. They're still on that dark path, and they will be for the rest of their life. But it was a moment of mortality that changed my life. Yeah.
Amazing. It seems like for many who are on this pathway, it's painful seasons in their life that bring them to this point of saying, "Oh, here it is." And so, do you think it's possible that young men can experience a good option without going through that devastating potential?
Absolutely. I heard a quote the other day that we often wait for an emergency to create urgency. Why are we waiting for an emergency? Who has to die? Who has to get sick? What has to happen in the world before you realize that that's already in you? You just gotta pull it out.
Such a juicy session. I really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing your insights. Last question. Any questions for me?
This was fun.
This was fun.
Yeah, I
wasn't
want
it?
to do it again. This is
Oh,
fun.
it's amazing. I mean, I got so many more questions, but I want to be aware of the amount I'm trespassing on people's time. But
It's all good.
I love the opportunities. Like, you guys are participating and also encouraging others along the way too, right? And saying it doesn't have to be. Like, my definition of hopelessness is when you don't have options. And I think I speak from personal experience when once upon a time I wish I had options, right? I was hearing that a little bit in your story when you were saying this is the only thing you saw in front of you, right? But when you have options, you at least have some contrast to be able to say, oh, here's a better way perhaps, you know? And so, yeah.
Thank you.
Kelsey, Faye, Shane? Shane?
Yeah.
Oh,
Nice.
my short-term memory is pretty amazing. But thank you guys for being a part of this.
It was fun.
I appreciate you giving me some time.
100%.
Oh, let me give you my name too if you want to follow along.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll spell it for you if you like.
Purse? Yeah. Thank you.
So, Binyam, if you remember a bin full of yams, you'll get to Binyam pretty quickly.
Okay.
Binyam.
Is this what channel are we on?
That's my, it's under my name as well too.
No,
so.
I mean like
On YouTube?
Instagram, YouTube. Okay.
On YouTube,
Okay,
pardon,
gotcha.
yeah. I mean, I'm on Instagram and TikTok as well, but you'll find most of my concentration on YouTube.
Okay, gotcha.
So Binyam
Yep.
ASRESS,
Yep.
and that should bring you close to me.
That's it.
That's me.
Got it. Subscribe.
I appreciate that. Thank you,
100%,
Shane.
man, absolutely.
Kelsey, Faye, such a pleasure. I hope our paths want to cross again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have a fantastic, chilly. I'm glad it's not raining. I checked the forecast. I'm like, am I gonna stop for the day? I'm like, nope, no rain yet.
That was fun, man.
That
Yeah,
was.
it was great. I'm excited to see it.
Me too. Well, you'll also see some others along the way too, but
Cool.
it's yeah, it's gonna be good.
Love it, man.
Thank you.
That was fun.
All right, you guys.
See you later, man.
Bye for now.
See ya.
Well, it's wonderful. Hope to see you guys again.
Yeah, see you later, man.
How long have you been podcasting for?
Well, it's an interesting story, Kelsey. I have, I started about 3 years ago. I used to be an Uber driver,
Well, cool.
and at the time I was having like great experiences with my passengers. So I thought, this is going so well. I'm not sure like why they're making a big deal out of it, because I thought everyone was sort of the same way. So I said, let me just maybe make some videos for other drivers, maybe, you know. And then it expanded far more than drivers, and everyone all over was like, this is like really great what you're doing. I wasn't sure what it was that they were like pointing the finger to. There were just a variety of experiences. So I took a year break last year, a year and a half, and I was really trying to sort out what am I trying to do, you know, because this is like going really well over here. And so I shifted from TikTok to YouTube, just for longevity purposes, saying this is my new theme here that I think is really important based on reflection of like what my core essence of what I think should be talked about is. And so that's how I started again. And so now I'm just re-engaging on this theme, especially to young men, and saying, hey, how can we have this more part of the conversation that could inspire some actions for other guys who are trying to figure it out.
Oh, I love that.
Thank you.
The cool thing about that is too, it's like there's not a lot of people doing that, and the guys that are watching,
Yeah.
they're watching because they don't know who else to listen to, right? So it is making a huge impact because they found something like, hey, there are other people out there like me. There are people that care, and there are people that understand what I'm going through and what I'm trying to figure out with myself. So it's like it's not just your typical, you know, food blogger. Like you're actually making a huge difference, and you know, somewhere, anywhere, it could be that person over there could watch it. It could change their life completely tonight. You never know, right? And that's the powerful thing about impact. And YouTube that's up for life, right? It's there forever. So the impact that you make every day could travel around the whole planet. So
The funniest thing about that, Shane, is I almost feel like I didn't select this specific genre, but it was actually not so long ago, a couple months ago, when I was having dinner with my sisters, like I usually do. My one sister's boyfriend, they've been together for years, but he's a great guy, but this is not his specific area. But he says to me, Benjamin, you really should talk to young men specifically. And I said, I'll think about it. And then that same weekend, I met another friend who I hadn't seen for a long time, and he said the same thing. I'm like, well, that's kind of funny. To me.
interesting.
And then I started reflecting on like here in the city, I'm still recognized by folks who recognize me from my previous content I used to create. Majority of those individuals, do you know who they were? My biggest segment who watch my content? Young guys.
Interesting.
Blown away. Like, I'm not the epitome of, you guys are describing. You know, I am soft-spoken. I am very in touch with my emotions. There's just so many things that I don't find resonate with me and young men. And even when I'm recognized in the city now, it's usually young guys who are coming up and just saying, I recognize you, and blows me away.
That's so cool, man.
And the question I ask them is, there's nothing different. I mean, there's so much different here. Like, what was it that you're buying from my content,
Yeah.
you know? And that's the part I didn't see coming. And so, yeah, you're saying there'll be a lot that are impacted. I'm encouraged that they are listening and consuming, and I hope it does translate to like transformation, really.
100%, man, it will.
Yeah.
And it's I think the statistic is like it takes 7 touch points of contact nowadays with so many distractions on social media. It takes 7 points of contact for a piece of information to be retained or to be taken action on, right? So somebody may have to watch a video once, some people may have to watch it 7 times, maybe more, but somebody will see it, but they already are, but I mean like just one individual
Then
person.
it'll soak in.
Eventually they'll see that one video, that 1 2-second word, that one piece that jumped out after years of watching your content. They'll be like, oh my god,
Click.
and it just bing.
Yeah.
It could happen at any moment.
Yeah.
And the people are recognizing you. That means they are watching your content.
It
and
is
they
so
like it.
encouraging when you hear that back. It's like, oh man, that's worthwhile. You know, that just makes it amazing. You know.
Hell yeah.
Well, keep going.
I
Don't give
will.
up.
I
Yeah,
will.
Keep
You're
going,
doing
man.
Great.
Thank you guys.
Of course.
Much love.
Awesome.
Enjoy your day.
Take care, man.
Thank you.
Take
Cheers.
care. Bye.